I am so excited to share that you can now watch all of my upcoming podcasts on my brand new YouTube channel for the What Now podcast. So many of you have asked for more video content, and now you can watch these powerful conversations face to face. Every story, every testimony, every moment of faith and resilience, you'll now find it all on YouTube. So I'll be posting more of my episodes there, along with new short clips and deeper insights to help strengthen your faith and remind you that you are never alone on this journey. I invite you to subscribe on my YouTube channel at Podcast What Now. That's at Podcast What Now, so you never miss an episode. This is the What Now podcast, where we have meaningful discussions to motivate, educate, and inspire you. I am Mary Alice Hatch, your host. In today's episode, I sit down with Emily Snyder to explore her journey of finding purpose, belonging, and using her voice, whether single or married, in a family-centered church. Emily shares her experiences working in both the professional and faith-based worlds, from collaborating with leaders like Chip and Joanna Gaines to serving in the church's Priesthood and Family Department, where her work shaped programs and curriculum that touch countless lives. She reflects on what each environment taught her about leadership, faith, and connection. She also talks about her life as a single professional woman in the church, her honest reflections on navigating belonging in a marriage-focused culture, and her insights on how openness and vulnerability can create unity in congregations. Later, she opens up about her transition into marriage at 46 years old, becoming a stepmother, and the intentional balance of honoring her husband's late wife while embracing her new role in a blended family. Through each chapter of her story, whether in career, singlehood, or family life, Emily emphasizes the power of choosing connection, trusting God's timing, and embracing your unique path. Her careful reflections offer encouragement and inspiration to women and men alike who are seeking to live with purpose in every season of life.
This is the What Now podcast.
Today I'm here with Emily Snyder. Welcome.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here with you.
So happy to have you today. Before we begin, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself so our listeners can get to know you better?
Sure. Let's see. I'm the oldest of 5 kiddos, and today happens to be my parents' anniversary. So excited. um, I, in being the oldest, my mom chose to be a full-time mother, and she was a school teacher for about a year and then full-time mother. And that was a huge priority for my parents. There was a season when my dad was working 3 different jobs to ensure that happened. And so I just kind of grew up with the mindset of motherhood is the number one career choice. And that is the only thing that I knew I wanted to be. I grew up with that Janine Brady song of, when I grew up, I want to be a mother, have a family, 1 little, 2 little, 3 little children of my own. And I got through my experience at BYU and nobody to date. I hadn't dated a lot, and just all these things and all the timelines didn't work out the way I'd anticipated. And so I've had a really fun life in which I was a school teacher for a number of years. I got to work with the Relief Society General Presidency for a number of years, got to work out in Boston with Clay Christensen for a number of years, got an MBA as a really old person in New York City, worked with Chip and Joanna Gaines in Waco, Texas, and then came back to Utah during COVID because thought, if I'm single, I do not want to die in Waco, Texas by myself. If the world is collapsing, I'm not doing this by myself.
That's not my final resting place.
No, I'm like, love Waco, but not doing this by myself. And got to work for the church for a season, and now recently got married for the first time. So just, 22 years later than I had anticipated.
Yeah, it's all timing. It's
Yeah,
all timing game.
yeah.
So,
So there's a snapshot.
so that's interesting. So you've had a wide variety of experience. I mean, I knew Brother Christensen back in Boston. He's a force, incredible man who passed away too young. Chip and Joanna Gaines, I buy a lot of their stuff from Target and I love them.
Good
I mean,
job.
that must have been an incredible experience. Can you just share a little bit about what it was like working with these amazing people?
Yeah. I definitely pinch myself on the regular that I've been able to be in scenarios to learn and to just watch. The thing that I've loved is that they are who they are. I mean, especially getting to work with Clay Christensen, Chip and Joanna. I think a lot of people, the number one question I get when people find out, they're like, are they really as great as I hope they are? And it's so fun to say, absolutely. They're human like the rest of us. They have all
Yeah.
their pieces and their hearts are as good as gold. Like they care so deeply and dearly about people. And it was just been amazing to get to have the moments and realize everybody has 24 hours in a day. Everybody has a beautiful journey. Everybody has hard things that they're overcoming. And that it then makes a lot more sense when I'm navigating my own situations.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible experience and very different from working with the church. I mean, you've had some unique professional experiences outside the church working in the secular world, but then you served in the priesthood and family department overseeing curriculum and programs that really touch nearly every member of the church. What did you learn about how the church supports members in their everyday discipleship?
Yeah, such a good question. And to clarify, I didn't oversee all that. The department oversees all that. And I got to participate in a lot of that. And so the reality of like general conference and the hymns and the scriptures and Sunday school curriculum and everything that happens with the organization, so Relief Society and the Elders Quorum and Young Men's, like all of those pieces of just everyday life. It's been fascinating in thinking about um like what successes as like because most organizations money is the success metric. Like you're either
Right.
making it or you're losing it. Like
Yeah.
you're able to grow because you've got money. At the church, that's a very different conversation about what success is. And so personally, in a lot of different conversations, and I would just take, little gems from different things, I came away with my personal definition of success as in thinking about a church member's experience would be that they are brand ambassadors, that they have had, like I think about organizations or products. I will forever be a Pinterest cheerleader. I get no kickback.
We
But yeah,
all are.
when there is a scenario in which somebody is redesigning something or somebody's trying to prepare for something and trying to explore and discover online, there is no better tool than Pinterest. And so I will always be like, great, Pinterest board. Like I even had a friend who's planning a trip to Rome and I was like, what are your outfits? Let's create a board. Like it's just such an instantaneous, like, there's nothing better. If I could be in a spot to help people find out their own reasons why they do church and why they do God and why they do Jesus and the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints, and have their own problem solved to be able to say, this is why I choose the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints. It has solved this thing in my life. When you come to this situation, there is nothing better than the doctrines and the organization of the Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints. And let me tell you why. And be the first one to proclaim it, not because we are asked to be missionaries, but simply because we have found such joy of our own accord that I don't need to be told. I don't need to be encouraged because for sure this church or this organization and this doctrine has changed me or solved something in my life and I can't wait to tell people.
Hmm.
So I
So,
think that's a fascinating like success metric.
yeah,
I've
and
also
very
thought of
different
yeah,
than what
very
normal
different.
business would be. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not a typical like KPI because oftentimes organizations look at like, okay, how many XYZ and there's times I think we can get caught in numbers and numbers aren't bad, but being baptized doesn't mean they're instantly a brand ambassador and have their own words and know why they're doing what they're doing. Going to the temple doesn't necessarily mean that either. And so how do we take those things and create opportunities to actually articulate, which were created to do that. We have talks, we have lessons, we have community in such a beautiful way to share our experiences. But I don't know that we ever truly identify that that's one of the purposes of what we're doing, what we
Mhm.
do for. Um,
So you're helping people kind of connect with their faith so they know why they're doing it and they will want to naturally share it because they're converted.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Because they know why this helps their life. Like, it's not just I do this because I do this, but like, oh no, I pull in scriptures into my life because there is a deep peace or there are deep conversations that I can have with the spirit that are unique only to me, that give me specific navigation for my specific scenario. I don't know where else to find that.
Yeah.
And I get to have my journal in those moments when maybe at the temple I don't have my journal. And so it's trickier. But I think, yeah, connecting some dots of we do a lot of things, which kind of leads into I got to be in a lot of conversations about ministering. And one thought some of us had was just we're ultimately trying to create a community. That's why we have wards, is
Yeah.
because community is really important as
Yeah.
humans and as members of a church. And the ultimate goal to create a community is to have meaningful relationships. Like that's why we gather. And we were just thinking through like, okay, well, what would Chat GPT say are key reasons or key ways to create meaningful relationships? And we started laughing because the list was join a club or a group, which were like, okay, in context of award, interesting. So show up, go there, attend social events. Oh, we have activities to create some sort of connections together, volunteer. Oh, show up and participate and give of my energy, take classes. Okay, we have classes. That's what we do.
Tons of
I mean,
'em.
it was just like so mind blowing.
Yeah.
Find and connect with people who share your interests. Okay, so I have to take initiative. I have to ask the questions, be open and approachable so that people will want to connect with me. Follow up. If you meet with someone you click with, don't hesitate to follow up. And again, take the initiative and receive. Like it was just so beautiful to be like, oh, Chat GPT, basically, we can check off all the things.
Yeah, you can check every box on there.
I know. So it was like, oh, do we recognize that what the church invites us to do with the organization is simply to create meaningful, safe relationships so that we're a village, so that we're in this together on top of the fact that we get to understand who God and Jesus Christ are from each other's life perspectives. I learned so much about who my savior is because of somebody else's experience.
It's so true. Like we just had Release Society yesterday and it's people or 2 days ago and people are sharing their shared experience and it builds faith when people have gone through the struggle and they're being vulnerable and they're sharing what they're dealing with and you think, I'm not alone in this.
Right.
It
Right.
builds so much strength when other people have the courage to be vulnerable
Yeah.
and then you can connect.
Well, and when we choose to, because I would dare say we've both been, and many of us are in wards where that doesn't, and it's not that type of a relief society, or it's not that
Yeah.
type of a situation. But I do think it is up to like it doesn't take a ton to change it. It takes a couple key people deciding to invest differently and to show up and be open and approachable, find and connect with people. Like, it doesn't take a ton, but when we choose to say, "I'm in this to truly find meaningful relationships, and I'm going to do my part," I
Mhm.
think it's game changing.
Totally. I totally agree. I mean, it's interesting because when you switched over to the church, you're in a pretty male dominated structure there. I mean, how did you navigate having just
Mm,
such a strong voice as a single professional woman in such a kind of a collaborative male dominated culture and structure there?
yeah, yeah. That is a question that I actually get asked not unoften. Um, but I don't maybe it's because of different life experiences. I really don't see the world in gender conversations. Because, like, I remember my first aha was when I was writing my applications to grad school and was like, "Well, I'm not a like, this gentleman that was coaching me on things and writing, he said something about like, "Well, you're a feminist." I said, "I'm not a feminist because I want equal like, I want the men to step up too. I want the
Yeah.
men to have all the opportunities." Like, because certain men may have situations and opportunities, but that doesn't mean every man does. And so that's not a gender conversation. It's more of a skill set conversation in my mind. And I feel like that's what I experienced a lot at church headquarters was there are a lot of tools for worldwide leadership
Mm-hmm.
and to recognize conversations that are happening that it's one thing to have a conversation on a ward level that needs to be a little bit more in the weeds and very individualized. But a general church that is international and multinational has a very different set. Like, of course, it's individual, but it also has to be about a big picture. So I saw more of what are the skill sets that people are having to have effective conversations that are concise, that move a conversation forward, that are taking into account the depths of what the conversations were about. And I feel like anybody, male or female, I saw men struggling with that conversation. I saw females struggling with it, but it really didn't matter because if you were willing to contribute well, it didn't matter what gender you are.
It's what you're bringing to the table and how you
Yeah,
contribute.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, you were proudly single for many years in a church culture that often emphasizes marriage. I mean, what helped you find your place and purpose kind of during those single years? I have a lot of friends that are older. Like one of my good friends got married at 50, another one just got married at like 53. I mean, and they are thriving. They're like, wow, I just never thought I could be this happy. So,
Oh, amen. In fact, my wonderful good husband, he's like, I don't like the first couple months in particular, and we're at a big 8 months. Like we've been married for a long time. But those first couple months, he's like, I don't ever question that of any man you choose me. But sometimes I question, are you okay to be married compared to your single life because you loved being single? And I was
true.
like, fair, totally beautiful, fair. And how do I communicate? Well, but it definitely was a mourning process because I did, like your friends, learn to love my life in every capacity. So,
Yeah.
but of course, it wasn't like that because my dream goal was to be my mom and have have a family, one little, two little, three little babies. Um, there was a there was a season I was reading some historical fiction novels that were clean. Like I found
That's hard to
this
find.
like publishing company that only did like Christian
Yeah.
clean historical fictions and basically Hallmark in a book form.
Uh-huh.
And there was a character, I mean, it sounds so silly, but yet it was one of those most like game-changing pivotal moments where the character in it was older and she was single in this small like western town. So she was definitely the old maid and she was tired of being alone. And she made a list of all the eligible men in the town and just tried to wiggle her way into their lives.
Appear whenever they were there.
Right, right. Um, it didn't work. And there was this handsome stranger that came into town, a little rough on the edges, but he took notice. And for the first time in her life, she felt beautiful and wanted. He ended up taking advantage of her, and then split town. And she was left to such sorrow. Um, she didn't become pregnant or anything, but she was so brokenhearted with what had happened. And her father made a comment and said, is it more important to you to get married or is it more important to you to follow Jesus Christ? And it wasn't an implication on any choice that had been made, but simply where her desires were and what she was working towards. And I literally threw the book across the room. I was so mad that those would be two different conversations and that there could even, it was the first time in my life that the idea of following Jesus Christ didn't instantaneously mean marriage and a family. And it ticked me off and just broke me. And it took some good amounts of wrestling. And I feel like I definitely had my Enos evening that night. I'm just, oh, I should have brought my tissues. um, where I wrestled so much and saying, that is not fair. You did not prepare me for this type of a question. And it became a journey of realizing, what is my priority? Is my priority marriage? Or is it Jesus Christ? And if it's Jesus Christ, how do I stand tall and confident and walk tall as a daughter of God,
Mm.
regardless of my circumstance? Because if I truly believed that I was a beloved daughter of Jesus Christ, that shouldn't dictate any circumstances. And that should be agnostic to any of my life circumstances. Because if it is true, then it has to always be true.
Yeah.
And I learned to start seeing my life and circumstances in those lenses of, I am. I'm not lacking. I'm not insufficient. It helped to be in Boston.
Yeah.
When I moved to Boston, that was a really big season, because I feel like Boston there's few assumptions in Boston within the church community there. And there's a big definition of what it means to be a converted and like committed member of the church. And there was a lot of room for singles to
Hmm.
stand up and be a part of things. So that was a huge gift to get to be in Boston during all of this exploration. Anyway, that was a long answer.
No, but it's tricky because in the culture, we are raised to get married, have a family. You're a daughter of God. He's going to provide these opportunities for you. And then you think, okay, so like, have you forgotten about me? Like, here I am, I'm 47 now. Like, I remember my friend, she's a stake young women's president, and she goes around, she's now married. She's the one who got married at 50. And she
Mhm.
goes around, she gives these amazing talks, and she talks about, she hit a point where she's like, did you forget about me? I'm
Mhm.
50. I'm going to the temple. I'm stake, I'm doing my calling. I'm in stake young women's. And here I'm leading all these women. I'm not even married. Like, what's the deal? Like, when are you going to bring my Prince Charming? I keep telling them it's going to happen for them. When's it happening for me?
Well, and I'm sure God's like, you leading has nothing to do with you being married. Like,
Yeah,
nothing to do with it. I
yeah.
think I remember at 25 having a moment, because of course I was going to go to BYU. I was going to find my Prince Charming. We were going to get married. Like, I was going to be married throughout school. Like, I just had like this,
The vision.
whatever, this vision in my head. And I remember at 25, I'd come home from my mission, which was a crazy story in of itself, and thought, I like myself so much more today than at 20 or at 21 and 22. I'm so glad that I didn't get married when I asked to get married, because I don't know that I would have liked myself as much. And I would, trust that, like, okay, for those that do, my sister got married at 19 and she had her own experiences and her own growth. And I think that's the beautiful reality of God's plan for all of us, because I just don't know how I would have developed me in the ways that I love so, so much. I feel like I'm so prepared in a different way to get to be married now, and I can articulate things in a way that at 20 would have been really, really hard for me to articulate. And I know I would have learned it, but I'm really grateful because I loved what's happened so far.
Well, I mean, you've spoken about how belonging is a personal decision, right? For someone who doesn't feel like they kind of fit in the ward or in the church, what would you want to say to them?
Mm, that I get it. I mean, I think um, I feel like I've done plenty of stepping into new places over, like, I was trying to figure out, what am I excellent at? What have I done over and over 25 years? And I was like, oh, transitions, stepping into unknown places. I feel like I'm becoming a master at that process. And so I've been into a number of situations where I don't feel welcomed and I don't feel embraced. One of them might be the 5 a.m. high fitness class that sometimes I go to. I'm like, one of these things is not like the other.
What
I've
am I
tried
doing
to
here?
be like warm and get to know people. Shockingly, at 5 in the morning, not a lot of people are interested, but it's really hard to feel like I belong if people aren't welcoming. However, they don't get to choose if I belong or not. Um, my actions, my showing up, my continued investment, kind of like talking before, like if I've decided this is a community I'm interested in, I have to do the work to belong. It's not anybody else's job
Yeah.
getting to move around so much and do different things. I've realized nobody's been waiting for Emily Snyder to like nobody's prayed to have an Emily Snyder show up in their lives. Like that's not typically how it works. If I show up on the scene, most people have their lives. They are well, their calendars are full, they're doing their things. They don't need or want me. They don't even know what I am or what I bring. So for them, for my expectation to be that they have to provide a space for me is kind of fascinating when I've realized if I recognize their life is full and beautiful, how can I show them I'm interested in them or wiggle my way in and make the first contacts to make the first attempts?
Yeah.
I'm embraced so quickly, so quickly.
Yeah. And just taking that step forward to connect. I mean, everyone wants friends. I mean, even if you have established friendships, I mean,
Yeah.
some of the best friends I've made have been even just moving to California in the last 8 years.
Yeah.
Some of my best friends are
Yeah.
here. And I just think I never knew when I moved here, I did not know one person. And it
Right.
was so intimidating to go to church. I'm like, who am I going to sit with? And no one knows me. No one knows who I am. This is the weirdest feeling. I'm like, I'm normal. You can be friends with me. It's so vulnerable.
Yeah.
But you have to reach out and you have to take the initiative because
Yeah.
they do have a full life. So I
Well,
like
and
that you're talking about that.
they may I mean, and I think the reality of everybody's insecure.
Mhm.
And I feel maybe it was Brad Wilcox back in, the ancient days. I think when I did EFY and he spoke and he was just like, if not you, who? Like,
Mhm.
so if somebody doesn't say hi to you, are you really just gonna sit and wait? Like, who's in charge of your life?
Yeah.
You or them? And that has had a lot of lasting impact of, well, in fact, I remember at a singles ward teaching one time, just because I make just because I talk first doesn't mean it's not a pep talk every time I do. Like, because somebody said, this is just who you are. I was like, no, this is a practice to who I am because I've chosen to show up a certain way. I have to swallow my nervousness. I have to kind of stand and do the like power pose of like, okay,
High five yourself in the mirror.
right, right. Like there's just a little bit of like, okay, here
Uh-huh.
we go. Let's make a fool out of
Yeah.
myself again and let's try.
So what
So I
was it
think,
like when you're speaking at the Marriott Center? I mean, I heard you speak for a women's conference last year, and I'm like, okay, that's a little intimidating.
oh my gosh, that one was so tricky. That was so nerve-wracking, and mostly because it was the teleprompter. I am so because my first career was teacher, that's what I feel so comfortable doing of like, okay, I've got a bunch of ideas. I've prepared a bunch of things. And so depending on the energy, okay, where are we going to go next? Which is typically how I do things, but to have a teleprompter, which meant I couldn't really,
Don't deviate.
yeah, it was so,
Follow the words on the
I
teleprompter.
know. If anybody watches that on YouTube, they'll know the
Well,
dear teleprompter operator gentleman was amazing for me.
Well, I mean, the Marriott Center is such a massive venue. I mean, that's something you gotta gear up for because I think people probably do assume, like I would myself, assume that you just are so confident, you speak so much, you just get up there and it's a no-brainer for you.
Oh gosh, no. No, I get so I mean, let's be fair, I would much rather speak in such a setting than teach young women how to bake a cake because that is not my strength.
Pick your lane.
Yeah, I'm like, who will trade with me? But I
Uh,
get so nervous every time because I also know it's a very sacred thing to take somebody's time of their life that people are showing up. And that's a sacred responsibility, I feel like, to say, how can I provide an opportunity and craft something with my heart, with my words that leaves people better? And not because of me, obviously, but like, how can I help create a space they are ready to receive whatever the spirit would teach in that moment? in not just a warm fuzzy, but like actually articulating, and they have a changed moment to do or be something different. Like that's a sacred spot. And so I go in very nervous to show up well for those and these this.
Well, you were prepared because there's an interesting story behind that I'd like you to talk about how your husband now, his daughter was attending women's conference and heard you speak and wanted to set you up with him. Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, which I just chuckle that it was in the Marriott Center. It was in the opening session. So she couldn't have missed it, right? Like typically women's conference speaker, you kind of choose your own adventure. And I just chuckled. I was like, well, did he want to make sure that she didn't miss or choose a different class? But she
Yeah.
was there with her mother-in-law and grandmother-in-law, like her husband's grandmother and an aunt, I think. And I think even her husband happened to be there, like, which I don't know why her husband was there, but it was this whole thing. And there was a conversation of like, she's great. We should have her meet Trent, dad, whatever. And so come to find out, they crafted for a couple days all together a text to me because I got some kind DMs after I spoke. And at one point in my talk, I just asked people to pause and turn and share with their neighbors something that was standing out and said, okay, share with me if you see me throughout the rest of the conference, great, or text or whatever. So she Instagrammed me and said, this is what I learned. And this is what I was thinking about. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. And then she said, okay, now it gets awkward. My mom passed away. And at the time it was 4.5 years ago. And my dad hasn't dated anybody during that time. He's one of the best men I've ever known. He is a Sunday school teacher. He's not really on social media, so you could go crash a Sunday school. He's a chiropractor, wellness doctor. He da. She's like, would you be willing to meet him? And I was like, sure. Because how many times in the last billions of years have I been set up and it never pans out into anything? So I was like, why not? And in my head, like, I can teach him if he really does reach out, I can teach him how to be single and find joy in being single.
A new friend.
A new friend. Yeah. Welcome in. The water's fine.
Yeah. Oh,
And she's like, okay, well, I haven't said anything to him. I was like, okay, well, don't tell him that you already asked me. Like, and if he's not interested, no skin off my back, not a big deal whatsoever.
yeah.
But she messaged later and said, he's interested. What's your cell phone? And so I gave it to her and I was like, but truly, whatever. And then a couple of days later, he truly did text and I was on an airplane to Europe with some friends right as he texted and he was like, hey, I understand my daughter has met you. She thinks we should get together. This is really awkward. Are you available for a really awkward phone call? And I was like, not awkward and not available because I'm on a plane to Europe. But what if we do some get to know you questions, first date questions via text and just, go from there? And he's like, oh, that's great. So we just instantly started texting. So for 2.5 weeks, we were texting.
Oh,
And we didn't FaceTime at all, but it was so fun. And he's said how grateful he was to just kind of ease into it, that he really appreciated getting to know my personality and kind of how I show up in the world before we actually met. And we met and didn't
the
ever
rest
stop
is
meeting.
history. And it was pretty quick. I mean, you met in rapid succession here.
Oh my gosh, it was so quick. Our first date was Memorial Day weekend in May,
Uh,
and then we were married by October 25th. So I think it was a full, I've said 6 months or five, maybe it's 5 months, May, June, July, August,
6 months is
6 months.
October, April
Yeah.
to
We're going to
October.
say six. Yeah.
Sure, so we'll say 6.
Yeah. We're gonna stretch that.
We're gonna go with 6.
So yeah, and dated for about 2.5, 3, engaged for about 2.5, 3. It was so fast. So fast.
But
But it was
so
also like
right.
I've dated so many people. I've interacted with so many people.
Yeah.
I had my own spiritual moments. He had 9. And I was like, doesn't that worry you that you had 9 kind of? And he's like, no. And I was like, it should.
It should worry you. Why doesn't that worry you?
It should worry you that you needed that many confirmations that this was a positive.
I mean, honestly, so it's interesting because you got married at 47, right?
Well, 46. I think I'm turning 47 this year.
Okay, so 46. So after years of singlehood, so what was it like to suddenly be like a wife and a stepmom and a ward member in a family ward? I mean, all at once. And you liked being single.
Yeah, I mean,
How was
overwhelming.
that? Yeah.
Overwhelming completely. I had, just finished renovating an apartment in downtown Salt Lake. It was the closest thing that you'll appreciate, the closest thing I could find to Boston and New York and, like, old school, beautiful, and it took about a year and a half to renovate, and I'd only been in the apartment since that October of '24. So it'd only been a handful of months since I'd actually called it home, and I had dejunked. I'd had my own little like non-estate planning sale of all the things I'd collected from Boston and New York and Waco that I just was like, for sure, by the time I get back to Utah, I'll have a home. Like I'll have a home and it will be all the things. And I was like, I'm going to buy an apartment and there's no room for this. So I've got to say goodbye. And I sold or gave away at least 2/3 of my belongings to fit in my little 700 square foot apartment. And I loved that and I do love the corner. I didn't sell the
I'll have
apartment.
it.
Yeah, it's still there just the way we created it. But to move into a new ward, and not just a new ward, but a ward in which they had raised and mourned and ministered to this family and loved Trent's first wife. To walk into that was pretty tricky
Yeah.
because I didn't feel like I could be myself
Yeah.
because I had to step into where their family sits in the pews. I had to step into, I didn't want, I so deeply respect his late wife and the world that she created. And I didn't want to just, negate all that. I wanted to be gentle and I wanted to be caring. And I still want to be me, but I also recognize I'm walking into somebody else's spot in many, many ways. And I I have a lot of friends that don't have great stories of walking into a similar scenario. This ward has been incredible. And to be fair to so many of the friends, like it was almost like a second morning of their friend to see me walk into this family of like, wait, that's Carrie's spot. But they rebounded so beautifully. Like they they recognized it and then were so quick to embrace and to not not dismiss me or make it trickier for me. But it's definitely been overwhelming to be like, Mother's Day was tricky to figure out.
Yeah.
Again, like I respect the mom that raised. I think motherhood is a woman's call and I love that and I've never felt sad about Mother's Day because I know I'm a mother. I know that I have posterity that may not be of my blood, but I have posterity. But I didn't know totally how to fit into a Mother's Day in respecting you have a mother that did the everyday hard work of raising. And I never want to diminish that or think even that I'm equal to that because I'm not.
Hmm.
And not that I'm not equal as a human, but like that is a special and powerful reality. And I never want anybody to think, especially the kids, that I get to be in that same spot. But I finally was like, I can be Mama M. I can be a mama and I can be the nurturer and the cheerleader and the safe place. And I can be Mama M in your life. And that was a beautiful aha for me. And the kids were incredible in embracing me as another like adult in their life that was quick to hug and bring the pom poms. And so it's been overwhelming and a lot of adjustment.
Yeah. That is, I mean, but your approach is really healthy because you're not trying to forget about the former
Yeah,
spouse who has passed
yeah,
away. You're embracing her, you're respecting the role she had in their lives. And now you're giving them the opportunity to have another cheerleader in their lives who roots them on and is there for them. Like that is such a disarming approach It's so good because sometimes it can be the other way where they're threatened by a former
Mhm.
wife and then they almost want to just like forget about that whole
Right.
life. But
Right.
she's an important role in your husband's life and your children's life. And now you are not trying to take that away. You're
Yeah.
just adding to it.
Yeah.
It's such a
Yeah.
great approach. It's such a healthy approach.
Well, and I mean, to be fair, having having her, I think it'd be tricky to do that in a divorce situation
Yeah.
if exes of male or female, however it shows up, are still in the picture, and how do we respect them when there's a lot of hurt on all the sides? Like the hurt, I think it's interesting that when somebody passes away, there is such space for mourning,
Hmm.
but in divorce, somehow we don't give space for the mourning of the brokenness that happened there. That yes, there's hurt and there's pain for whatever the scenario is,
Hmm.
but there's such mourning to happen as well, and the broken dreams and the broken relationships and the death of many things. And so I completely recognize that I get to do that in a different way because she has passed than perhaps is as easy to do, or less complicated. I'll say I won't, it's not easy, but less complicated than perhaps divorce situations.
Well, it's helpful that his daughter is the one who connected you. I mean, she's the one who brought you into the picture.
I
So,
know.
what a blessing.
So great, because I mean, we joked one time, I was like, "Well, if you guys don't like me, it's not it's Ashley's
You
fault,
blame your
not
sister.
I'm not, it's not my problem."
She did it.
Yeah,
She texted me.
you have to go complain to her, not me.
Well, now you're starting into this new role in your life. You know, you're not working for the church anymore. You stepped down from that. Was that hard for you to kind of step down from your professional life and become a full-time, spouse and homemaker and
Well, and I didn't step down from it. I have a new job. I'm a chief of staff, at a software company, but it was sad to go. Um, I've realized that I've made my jobs my life, and I would give so much, and they definitely had to be very cause driven,
yeah,
because if I wasn't growing a family, I wanted to be a part of growing something that was going to contribute in positive ways to the world.
yeah.
And I definitely feel that way with the church. I feel like, um, I told my therapist one time, like, separate the belief set, which I subscribe to and believe, but the organization and structure that we have of the church is one of the most fascinating behavioral economics, social science experiments that you could ever have, because of the way we're organized, unlike any other church that really can touch international and multinational very quickly, there is a power in getting to change beliefs that change hearts, that change actions, that change people, that change the world.
Hmm.
And that is a sacred responsibility. And I believe the doctrines, and I believe what it subscribes to, but so thankful that I trust and believe that they're in the hands of good men and women, that but that was hard to leave because my cause is no longer this big movement.
Yeah.
My cause and the energy, I've realized, needs to be preserved for the people that are now my family and
Hmm.
are my immediate family. And so I did a good bit of readjusting, where am I putting my emotional energy, and made a choice to kind of do more of a day job. And it has a great mission, but my day job is a little bit more execution, so that I have a different bandwidth to
Well, and
invest
you have a different priority now. Like before, your priority would be probably building whatever you're involved with professionally, but now you have a family.
in. Yeah,
And so your priority is your family and your day job is your day job.
right, right.
Yeah.
And I want to give all that I can to that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
this immediate family now is the priority. So,
I mean, which makes total sense. I mean, what message do you want these LDS women to know, single or married, young and old, to hear and believe today? I mean, you've shared a lot of really important things about experiences you've had in your life. And what do you want these women to glean from that? I mean, women
mhm,
have a lot of influence in the world now.
yeah, yeah. I think the number one thing is that I wrote it down and I put it into ChatGPT to make sure I said it was good.
Say
But
this better.
the fact that we can create whatever we want. Period. The end. Men and women, but I think especially as women, we are called and we are designed to be creators. And we can create whatever we choose. And if we don't proactively choose, then sometimes we end up creating not great things or less than great things. I think and so this is what ChatGPT helped me articulate. There are real places where people are hurt and victimized, which I completely acknowledge. Especially, I think sometimes in our culture that has happened more often than not. But also, I believe we are not meant to ever live as a victim. Hard things happen.
Mm-hmm.
But because of Jesus Christ and because of the power of covenants in particular, we have power to move forward, to reclaim our stories, and to choose how our chapters are written, hands down. And so that would be my overarching cry is, I mean, kind of back to one of your first questions about working for church headquarters and in that department in particular, there's a lot of things this beautiful church produces because we don't know what's going to trigger that moment of brand ambassador for anybody. It could be an FSY experience. It could be seminary. It could be that hymn. It could be that conference. I mean, there's just who knows what this is the Spirit's going to use to help create moments like I had with my romance novel of like the ahas. And so I think sometimes we as women can get overwhelmed. And I think Satan does a really great job of thinking there's a lot of things we're supposed to be. And sometimes our culture is added to that. And I think Satan does a great job of taking advantage of that to say, oh, you've got to be all these things. When it's like, no, 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 no. There's no human alive that can actually fulfill the ministering assignment that is actually spelled out in the handbook of instructions. Like
Mm-hmm.
the ask of that ministering assignment is to be all things to everybody. You can't be that. So
Yeah.
why do we pretend to try? So I think the twofold is choose what life we want and be conscientious and proactive in recognizing Jesus Christ never allows us or invites us to be a victim. That is the opposite of everything that he teaches. And with him, we can navigate and pull in the right pieces at the right times that are the extras. I deeply believe in the ordinances and the covenants that keep us anchored. But all the other pieces are really beautiful appendages that help our community, that help me practice my belief in Jesus Christ. And I get to create whatever life I want, no matter my circumstances. There are boundaries, there are constraints, but that's the adventure, is to create the life within those boundaries and constraints.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for being with us today and these amazing messages to the women and men of the church that you choose what you want your life to be. You rely on the Lord to direct it and then leave it in his good hands and look at the wonderful blessings you've had in your life in doing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is the What Now Podcast.